Welcome friends. From this video, let's discuss about the major international environment conventions. The first one is United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, also known as Earth Summit, also known as Rio Earth Summit. So this is the most important and huge event at an unprecedented scale for an international gathering on environmental issues, because this event was organized because of the growing consciousness among the world community in the late 1980s and 1990s, because of the major findings like threats to atmospheric ozone layer depletion, and also growing consensus about the threats posed by the climate change and global warming. So on the background of this major event, that is the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, was organized. So it attracted wide range of countries, including more than 172 countries are participated, and with 116 countries sending their head of the states or government. So this is a very widespread event. So this conference also led to the adoption or led to signing of various important conventions, other conventions, and also it also spinned off into various important protocols for the conservation of nature, biodiversity, as well as for sustainable development. So this is a parent conference which spinned off various other sister organizations as well. So let's discuss about this. So this is very important. And in 2012, after 20 years of Rio Earth Summit, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development was also held in Rio, okay, in the same place in 2012 after 20 years. And this is a major event, as I discussed earlier. So this involved 172 countries, and some 2,400 representatives of non-government organizations attended this event, with 17,000 people at the Parallel NGO Global Forum. A parallel NGO Global Forum was organized parallelly for a consultation mechanism. And the major important issues addressed here include the systematic scrutiny of patterns of production. That means particularly the production of toxic components. So the production of toxic components are scrutinized majorly here. This include lead in the gasoline, that is the presence of lead in the petrol and diesel, and poisonous waste including radioactive chemicals. So these issues are discussed. And the second important issue addressed are alternative source of energy to replace the use of fossil fuels, that is the petrol, diesel, which are linked to global climate change and global warming. So this is also issued. And new reliance on public transportation system in order to reduce the vehicle emissions, congestion in cities, and the health problems caused by pollution of air and smoke, okay. And also the growing scarcity of water is also discussed. These are the important issues addressed under this conference. So this conference led to three important major documents, okay. These three important documents are released, and it also led to the legally binding agreements called Rio Conventions. These Rio Conventions are open for signature. These are the three important conventions here. So the first, let's look at the important documents that are released during the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, that is the Rio Earth Summit 1992. The first document is Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. These are all the books, okay, the documents related to sustainable development and environment conservation. So the second document is Agenda 21. The third one is Forest Principles. And legally binding agreements, that is the Rio Conventions, were opened for signature to the member countries. These include Convention on Biological Diversity and United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is the UNFCCC. So this is the most important conventions which led to the Kyoto Protocol, and also subsequently led to the cap on the carbon dioxide emission for the developed countries. So this is important. This is the daughter convention for the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. So this is important. And the third convention, that is the Rio Convention, is United Nations Convention on to combat desertification. So these three important conventions born because of the Rio Earth Summit. Please remember. And here is the blueprint of Rio Earth Summit. So this Rio Earth Summit was organized in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. This led to three important environment conventions, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So this This convention again led to two important protocols. One is Kyoto Protocol and second is Copenhagen Accord. And the second convention under Rio Earth Summit is Convention on Biological Diversity. So Convention on Biological Diversity again led to three important agreements, that is Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, Nagoya Protocol on access to genetic resources and benefit sharing, and Aichi Biodiversity Target. And the third important convention is Convention to Combat Desertification. So this also include Agenda 21 and Rio Plus 20. So this is the importance of this Rio Earth Summit. And the first, let's discuss about the important document that is released and Rio Summit, that is Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. So this is a document, okay? And this document produced at 1992 UNCED, as I discussed earlier. And this document consists of 27 important principles that is intended to guide the future sustainable development around the world. So these 27 principles should be adopted by various countries around the world for leading into a sustainable world. Okay, so these 27 principles are role of man and his role in conservation of biodiversity, and state sovereignty in the maintenance of biodiversity as well as natural resources, and right to development for developed and developing countries as well. So this include right to development for the developing countries. And the fourth principle is that of environment protection in the development process, because in the development process there is a conflict of interest. So on the one side we need development, that is the more electricity for our daily requirements, so that needs the coal mining. Okay, this coal mining led to destruction of forest. So we need to balance the ecological protection as well as the development process. This is the principle here. And the fifth one is eradication of poverty, and sixth is priority for least developed countries. This should be kept in mind in the international diplomacy. And seventh is state cooperation to protect ecosystem, and eighth, reduction in unsustainable pattern of production and consumption. So the list goes till 27th principle, that is the cooperation between the state and people. So these 27 principles guide the various countries in the path towards sustainable development. So that was the important document. And the second important document is Agenda 21. So this is the document, the cover page of the document, Agenda 21, okay, at UNCED. So this Agenda 21 is a non-binding, voluntarily implemented action plan. Okay, it is a blueprint action plan of United Nations with regard to sustainable development. So this is the action plan by the United Nations with regard to sustainable development. So it is a comprehensive blueprint, as I discussed earlier, of action, blueprint of action to be taken globally, okay, to be taken at a level of globally, nationally and locally by organizations like United Nations, various governments in the various countries, and major groups including NGOs and other international institutions in every area in which human directly affect the environment. So this Agenda 21 provides a blueprint for these organizations as well as countries in the direction of sustainable development. So the number 21 here refers to agenda for the 21st century. So this is also the important document. And this Agenda 21 is a 700-page document divided into 40 chapters that have been grouped into 4 sections. So this book is divided into, it contains 700 pages and is divided into 40 chapters, and that has been grouped into 4 sections. These sections include, the first section is on social and economic dimension, okay, that deals with the social and economic dimensions. The second section deals with the conservation and management of resources for development, and third section deals with strengthening the role of major groups, and the fourth deals with means of implementation of the strategies for sustainable development. The first section, that is social and economic dimension, is directed towards combating poverty, especially in developing countries, and changing consumption pattern, promoting health, education and decision making. Okay, and the second, that is conservation and management of resource and development, includes atmospheric protection, combating desertification, protecting the fragile environment, conservation of biological diversity, control of pollution, and all the related issues are related to resource management. The third section, that is strengthening the role of major groups, include the role of children, youth, women, NGOs, local authorities, and business and industry and workers. So these are the important things covered here. So this is important document, second one important document. So the Agenda 21 also includes local agenda, because this Agenda 21 wants the coordination at global, national, and local level. So, in order to meet the requirements at the local level, various governments, like Indian government, framed their own local Agenda 21. So that suits the local requirements. For example, a region in the South India may have a state in the South India may develop its own local Agenda 21 for its conservation of natural resources as well as for moving towards sustainable development. So this is the local agenda designed to meet the local requirements. So the Rio plus 5. So Rio plus 5 is in 1997, the General Assembly of the United Nations held a special session, to apprise the 5 years of the progress on the implementation of Agenda 21. So Agenda 21 was adopted in 1992. So to evaluate the progress of the Agenda 21, United Nations, remember here, United Nations General Assembly met in Rio after 5 years to review the situation. So the meeting concluded that there has been an uneven progress in this regard, and there has been growing inequality in the world as well through this period. Okay, and Rio plus 20 is a conference, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, that organized after 20 years of Earth Summit of 1992 in the same place, that is Rio de Janeiro. So this also led to various opinions and agreements. Okay, so the major important things after 1992 include Rio plus 5 and Rio plus 10 in 2012 at Johannesburg, and Rio plus 20 in Rio de Janeiro. Okay, these are the things. And the third document, apart from Agenda 21 and other document, is Forest Principles. So this Forest Principle is an informal name given to the non-legally binding. This is not legally binding. Okay, document for a global consensus on management, conservation, and sustainable development of all types of forest. Okay, so this document is a consensus for the management and development of forest throughout the world. So at the Earth Summit, there are two parties. Okay, one is developed countries and developing countries. So there was no consensus between the developed and developing countries on how best we could manage the forest resources, because these developing countries are very poor in various resources, so they need space for development. So if you conserve forest resources, that is an extra burden, because on that place no other productive activities could be taken. So this is an extra burden on the developing countries. For that, developing countries are demanding the financial assistance, that is the foreign aid, from the developed countries to maintain the natural resources as it is, without degeneration. So, but the developed countries was not in agreement with the developing countries with this respect, so they did not agree to provide the foreign aid. So finally, it was only a compromise. So there was no conclusive result happened because of the forest principles. So this is the crux of the document, Forest Principle. So this United Nations United Nations Conference on Environment Development, that is the Rio Earth Summit, as I discussed earlier, is a mega event. So it is the first important event in the international world for conservation of nature. So as I discussed earlier, it spinned off into various other important conventions for the control of environment pollution, and also for the conservation of nature and biodiversity. So let's recap the thing here. So Rio Summit led to three important conventions. Okay, three important conventions. These are UNFCCC, Convention on Biodiversity, and Convention to combat desertification. Okay, so these three conventions are born due to UNCED conference. Okay, so under UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, we have Kyoto Protocol, which limits greenhouse gas emissions from the industrialized countries. So this is an important event, and Kyoto Protocol came into force in 2005 and it expired in 2012. Okay, and under Convention on Biological Diversity under Rio Summit, we have Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. So it regulates the movement of genetically modified organisms for the protection of biodiversity. And in 2010, under Convention on Biological Diversity, we have Aichi targets for reducing threats to biodiversity, and also Nagayo Protocol for access to genetic resources and benefit sharing. Please don't worry, I am going to cover these events in detail in my coming videos. Okay, and the why I'm showing this figure is that the importance of events Rio Summit. So it led to various important conventions which are important in the area of environment conservation. So other events I'm going to cover in my separate videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching. So in my next video, let's discuss about Convention on Biological Diversity. So this was born from the UNCED. Okay. So let's discuss in the coming slide. Thank you.